Welcome back. This is Sunday edition. Let's revisit the issue of the NASA, the unity within the National Super Alliance, that is the opposition coalition. And of course, there has been a lot of talk about what is happening between the four affiliate political parties, between the four core principles, that is Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula. At different occasions, they have spoken about the fact that they are together. But of course, there has been the discussion, of course, of what will happen between now and 2022. None of they are willing to give it another stab, and none of the other is willing to play second fiddle. Just what gives vis-a-vis what's happening on that front, and of course, what they are saying that they want to fight for electoral justice with that demand of a fresh election by August. Let's listen into what they have had to say about their unity question.
Tulikuwa tunataka kugonga hii propaganda ya media ambayo inasema ati NASA inasambaratika. NASA imekwisha, NASA inasambaratika, Wiper inagongana na ODM, ANC inagongana na ODM na yale ni. Tu katika ile nyumba ya kienyeji, boma ya kienyeji, kuna manyumba mengi. Saa nyingine vijana wanavurutana hapa na pale, kama wabunge wanavurutana. Hiyo sio kuonyesha kwamba NASA inapambaratika. Hiyo inaonyesha demokrasia katika muungano wetu. Ama sivyo?
They say friendly fire also kills. Ukianza pale utoe sauti kubwa, useme Kalonzo wewe ni coward. What are you trying to do? Wewe unajipiga risasi direct. Kwa hivyo lazima tuelewane hapa. Tuelewane because at the level of Raila, the level of Mudavadi, Kalonzo na Weta, we are indivisible. So don't try to create division. Our intention is to drive Jubilee home. Yesterday. And that is where our focus is.
It is very important that the parties are strong. And if ODM is strong, it is good for this country. And good for the coalition.
We need to agree on a roadmap that will ensure we re-energize the party, we revamp the party, now we regain the strength ambayo naona kidogo hapa na pale watu wanatushekshek, tuonyeshe nguvu ya chama cha ODM. Si namna hiyo? Watu wanasema, sisi Waswahili tunasemanga kama ujipangi utapangwa.
All right, a lot of undertones there. Let me start with you, Dismas. Our sources are indicating that in that meeting, the ODM party leader Raila Odinga had to literally prevent some ODM officials from ventilating their issues about ODM's continued, partnership with the other three affiliate parties of NASA. That there seems to be some pressure on Raila Odinga to divorce the other three, if you may.
Well, when you look at the political space in Kenya, and having had the opportunity to interact with most of these principles and political parties in Kenya, there's no way you'd have a meeting like that, and then a political party member comes up with a position which has not been sanctioned by the party leadership. Probability is almost zero, especially within ODM. So when you have the members within ODM coming up with specific voices, specific questions, believe you me, they've been sanctioned by the party leader, Raila Odinga. Now, in the unlikely event that a fella walks from the woodwork, comes up with a position, and pleasant to Raila Odinga, there's a very high chance that some young fellas, strong fellas, will appear from nowhere, carry the gentleman out of the meeting. So there's a very high probability that everything that Joe has said, and from what your sources have said, that there was a bit of tension, has been created by Mr. Raila Odinga himself, trying to pass a message to the other political leaders, his other core principles. And that's where the rubber meets the road. Because the other core principles say the ODM members treat them with the highest level of contempt in any political organization. There is no respect. Like, for instance, the altercation between Governor Joe and Kalonzo Musyoka is not supposed to be taking place in a public gathering where there's media. When you have those issues, you're not supposed to clean your dirty linen in public. You go to the boardrooms, you fight it out, then you come out smelling like a rose. Because, Kalonzo considers himself a principal, despite the fact that he's got very bare minimum numbers from his constituency, but he expects to be treated as a principal. So when you have Joe, the deputy party leader, coming and saying that you are a coward, now, Kalonzo is a man, number one, he's got a family, and maybe his son, who is now an MP at Yala, was watching the proceedings live. He has to react in a manner saying, wait a minute, friendly fire kills. But if NASA has to make progress, Raila has to tame his troops to treat other people with respect. And if they want to disintegrate NASA, then let them do it at an early stage so that, people, as Joe said, watu wajipange mapema. Raila should have the capacity to encourage divergent views. When Musalia Mudavadi says, in as much as we want to address the issues of 2017, let's look at 2022 and what is our roadmap. Let's sanitize IBC. Let's ensure that there is inclusivity. If you've got divergent views from your other core principles, you do not unleash your troops to start, running the reputations through the mud. And in my view, NASA, if they want to remain relevant after now, they should encourage divergent views, cross-pollination of ideas, have a conference, have the four principals come up with ideas, beat those ideas into something that you can take to the future.
All right.
But if you are doing this, at the end of the day, the principal beneficiary is going to be Samoei Ruto. Wherever Samoei Ruto is a very happy man.
Right.
Because for him, his dream, and at this stage we are assuming that IBC is going to be sorted out, his dream is to have a run with Raila Odinga. And at that stage, Samoei Ruto will be able to galvanize the Mount Kenya votes and carry the day. So for him, wherever he is a very happy man. So NASA has to be alive to that.
All right.
When Musalia Mudavadi speaks, pay attention.
A lot of this, gentlemen, it's stemming from the January 30th oathing by NASA and no-show by the three co-principals. Mark, we did see in that occasion the Mombasa governor was at Uhuru Park, and he seemed to take the cue very swiftly. Does Joho have the political capital to challenge, say, Kalonzo, as he is doing right now in that NASA setup?
The question you have to ask yourself, in a coalition where ODM has 2/3 of the power, and this 1/3 is divided among the three, is Raila Odinga's deputy in ODM more powerful than Kalonzo Musyoka? That's the question. That's the question. And the fact of the matter is, numerically, he is more powerful. In terms of charisma, he is more powerful. In terms of a political base that is solidly behind him, in terms of an entire county, in fact, the entire Coast Province, he is more powerful. In terms of his ability to campaign literally across the country, he is more powerful. In terms of being visible and being seen as being courageous, to have taken on Uhuru Kenyatta the entirety of last year, he is more powerful. And the reality of the matter is, NASA needs to wake up and smell the coffee. The power dynamics between ODM and the smaller parties, and indeed between Joho, who, by the way, in 2022 is likely also to be a viable presidential candidate.
Right.
For ODM, you cannot wish him away. And the reality of the matter is this formula that Odinga and the rest have tried to put together since 2007, which was then known as Pentagon, now Principles, and all these things. It's the same formula. They need to realize that they need to change that formula. Einstein said that madness is doing the same thing thrice and expecting it to give you different results. If that formula is not working, they better take the time to jipanga now. Because the truth of the matter is, if they do not take the time to galvanize their position and act right, act as an opposition correctly, they're not going to survive until 2022.
All right. Let me stay with your points that numerically ODM has the advantage, and of course the ODM leader and deputy party leader have the advantage numerically. Hesbon, do you think that it is viable, it is a viable option for ODM to go it alone?
Well, I think if you look at the four political parties, the only political party that can actually go it alone is ODM. And truth be said, there is no NASA without ODM. Even when NASA was being formed, and I think the architect is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the main person he was looking to bring on board was Raila Amolo Odinga. And you see, even with the strength that ODM has, we also need to be alive to the fact that ODM conceded quite a lot in the run-up to the last general election, which means they still have this belief that we gave so much because we had a presidential candidate. And if the people we gave so much to are still not comfortable with the strength that we reduced, we can go it alone. And the Right Honorable Raila Odinga also made it clear, that there is no point of all this noise, but if the situation calls for ODM to go it alone, they would go it alone. So as far as we are concerned, as people who are looking into what is happening, I mean, it's a bit clear that ODM is trying to flex their muscles. And the advantage, because these other political parties seriously have nowhere to go. But for NASA as a family, I think there's a sense in which you also want to imagine that if there is nothing that brings them all together as a cause, and some of them are beginning to develop cold feet towards electoral reforms, the best way is to retreat back to your political party, make it strong. Some of them are clinging into the NASA, dream, and they're making a lot of noise from within, yet that is self-defeating. If they go out and build their parties and made their parties stronger, they'll be a lot more attractive. And if you look at the statements that are made by a number of people from, the ODM strongholds, the last 2 days of last week, I was in Migori County, and it's a bit obvious that majority of the people who come from ODM strongholds strongly believe that ODM has no reason to be in NASA. And these principles should be very happy with what Raila is doing, trying to sustain, the NASA coalition.
All right. Mutinda, let me get your political strategy on this. So where does this leave all the 4 affiliate parties? If ODM were to go it alone, what next for them, and what next for the other 3?
First, I want to clarify something that I've heard Bichache talk about, that Joho is more powerful than Kalonzo. I think it's good to put that into context. He'd be more powerful than Kalonzo if he was to inherit the whole of ODM. And I'm saying that because there is nothing new that Joe will bring to Raila. Raila already has the region where Joe comes from under his fold. And I am not sure that the coastal region is supportive of Raila because of Joe. That one, I don't think that because the coastal region has been with Raila. Even, actually it is the other way around. The person who's helped Joho to be what he is Raila. So there is no way you're going to say that Joho is more powerful than Kalonzo unless he has inherited the entire ODM voting bloc. Why am I saying this? Because Kalonzo brings something that Raila does not have. The region where Kalonzo is very strong has never supported Raila independent of Kalonzo. So it has always been that Cumberland has supported Raila when Kalonzo has been with Raila. And that by itself shows that there is value he brings, which is distinct, unlike Joho's. So I think that one it's good to have that kind of clarification. The other thing is that I think NASA is using a strategy that would be best applied in a parliamentary democracy. Ours is a presidential system. Why am I saying this? Esbon is encouraging them to strengthen their parties. Towards what end? Because one of the problems, if you ask me, the main reason why Jubilee was even able to win some seats in NASA strongholds is because of internal competition within NASA itself. So that if you go to Western Kenya, you find that there is a Jubilee person, then there is an ANC person vying for the same seat, an ODM person vying for the same seat, and a Wiper person. Honestly, how do you think that would work for you when you're competing against one unified force? So if NASA principals have to decide what is it that they want more than the other, is it for them to remain as party leaders, or is it for them to have a strategy to form government? Clearly, in Jubilee, the most urgent thing for them was to form government. And that's why they were ready to sacrifice their parties, form one party that is going to enable them win not only the presidency, but a majority in the National Assembly, in the Senate, and in the county assemblies. It clearly worked well for them. But in NASA, they look like they want both,
right.
And you can't have both.
But how do you strengthen political parties and then still strengthen the coalition?
Let me tell you, the only way you can have a coalition that survives with an ideology is when political parties within the coalition respect each other. And these political parties can only respect each other if there's something substantive that they're bringing. I mean, you cannot compare what happened to the NASA political parties and Jubilee. It was fairly easy for TNA and URP to merge for the simple reason that they already had a clear-cut, leadership in place. They had a ticket for 2017. And I cannot be convinced by anyone that it will be the same in 2017. When you have power, it is very easy to streamline your lieutenants. And I don't think it's the same. Even if Raila was to try, Kalonzo, Raila, and Mudavadi were to try to put their parties together and form, one political party, it would be impossible, because they don't have the power. For Jubilee, they did it towards actually, they did it slightly more than 1 year to the election, and it was very easy. They were telling people that just come, we make it strong, we get power. The government is very big. We'll find a way to divide the sphere of influence. And I think they managed to do that. Now, come 2022, it will be different. And I'm looking at a situation where whatever we have as Jubilee is likely to move back into TNA and URP, because they are still distinct. You can tell who is in Jubilee and is from the TNA background, and who is in Jubilee and is from the URP background.
Elizabeth, what do you think?
Why don't you think that would also be true? I believe that it would also be very easy to tell within a unified NASA which side is Wiper, which side is ANC.
Then it is self-defeating. Why would you? Then why would you be in one house and you separate yourself within the house? You'd rather be just separate and come together based on strength and ideology, so that you coalesce along a common agenda, which is to uplift the lives of Kenyans.
Even when that has proved to be a losing strategy, repeatedly.
And because
there was code in 2013.
It's why I'm saying it has proved to be a losing strategy, because they've never gotten into power. And all along, what they've been trying to do...
So how do they get to the power when they repeat a losing strategy?
Let me tell you. Let me finish.
Because it's them getting power.
So you cannot say that it's a winning strategy.
They have to sacrifice something.
You cannot say it's a winning strategy for Jubilee. Jubilee has been in power. But we know our politics. And you can easily tell that if it worked for Jubilee and they have power, it doesn't mean that it will work for them when they're out of power. It won't.
All right.
I mean, the future of this country is in very strong political parties. And we cannot deceive ourselves by building bigger houses that don't have
in a presidential system. Contextualize that. We are in a presidential system.
Whether it is presidential
if we were probably in a parliamentary system,
the discipline in our democracy,
to be very clear, every party would come and say that we have this number of members and we want to negotiate to be in government. But in a presidential system, once the winner is declared, that is the winner. Unless someone wins the presidency and they have a minority in parliament, that is when they would need to co-opt other members so that the agenda is not frustrated in parliament.
Yes, Ben, as I was waiting for this moment, you remember the late Mishuki said that trying to handle a lever using one hand is almost impossible. The same applies to the management of coalitions in Kenya. And in as much as ODM is seen to be the big brother within NASA, probability of them winning a presidential election is significantly reduced if they imagine that the other three parties are a waste of time. So that, I mean, for you to win an election, there is a core base for all political parties. You just need one vote to tilt the scales. That's why to be president in Kenya, you need 50 plus 1. And the times above number, from the time we established the ODM in Kenya, we know for a fact that if you're going to run alone in the absence of these other political parties, probability of you winning is 0. So there is no way if anybody can convince any other person that ODM is going to run alone and win. That one will never, ever happen. Even, I mean, as the prediction coming through that TNA is going to go its own way, URP its own way, there's no way TNA will run alone and win. The same happens to URP. So you have to build coalitions. And when you're building those coalitions, you must treat other people with respect. You could even form a coalition made up of only 10 members who will give you the +1. You recall after Chief Justice Maraga said elections were characterized by illegalities and irregularities, all the political parties were running helter-skelter, trying to get members. At that stage, one day you saw Munya going to have a meeting with NASA. The following second, you've seen him at State House. Because it's very clear that one vote counts. So there's no way one would say that we are ODM, we are the big brother, we are treating the rest of you in a manner that suggests there's a bit of contempt. That will never, ever work. And going back to what Professor Wheeler has indicated, it's so important for political parties to have the opportunity to build their own strong institutions. So that when you are approaching 2022, or wherever an election is going to be held, because there is talk Raila is going to apply pressure to have an election anytime soon, but as you approach the election, then you agree, are we going to select our candidates? Is it going to be a joint nomination? Then that can cure the mischief that Kavemba is talking about. Have your strong political parties, but agree as a coalition, are we going to select our candidates so we are not given a beating?
All right. Mark, finally, does this then mean that we could see yet fresh realignments ahead of 2022, like ODM and URP, something like that?
Raila may be Ruto's running mate. Who knows?
The realignments are sure to happen. And the reason they are sure to happen is because of governors. A lot of governors will have run the gauntlet. They will have done their 2 terms and they cannot be re-elected. And they would want to continue their political lives in some shape, way, or form moving forward. Now, will they agree to be senators? I doubt it. A lot of them would want to chance it by running for president, and even if you lose, you get to be in cabinet or you get to do a deal of some sort by forcing a runoff. That is the scenario I see. And therefore, realignments are going to occur. However, there's one prediction that I think is, though founded on historical reality, I think will not happen by 2022. I quite predict that Jubilee will not fall apart between now and 2022. Not because the factors of URP and TNA are lost, but because of their proximity to power. They will hold together for the simple reason that for as long as NASA is in disarray, logic will tell you that Jubilee is likely to have a walkover in 2022. And therefore, you would not want to rock a boat that you know is going to get you to your destination.
So there's no possibility
anyway.
of, Central Kenya having a challenger to...
You see, let me tell you, if Raila Odinga is on the ticket in 2022, for Jubilee, it's a ticket cast in stone, because they know, let me tell you, Jubilee has experience in beating Raila Odinga. He is the best opponent for them. I said before, remember when Raila said that Ruto needs him for 2022? He was quite correct. If there's an opponent that Ruto needs, it's Raila Amolo Odinga. It's like Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. You know the match is going to go a certain way.
All right.
Ben, allow me to
address
that point.
I just want to chip in. In 2002, we had a party called NAC. And you know, it's good to borrow best practices, because NAC, you know very well, was a coalition between NAK and LDP. They came together and formed government. That is simply the kind of advice we are giving NASA.
Right.
NASA is unable to do that.
Right.
It remains distinct when it is competing for MCAs. It remains distinct when it is competing for all these other 5 positions other than the presidency. That is already building your house on sand. There is no way it can stand. So if they can change tact, then probably they would pose some meaningful challenge than they've done before.
Gentlemen, let's leave it there. Leave it there. It's a conversation we'll continue to have. It's a debate that we'll continue to see how it continues to play out. What NASA continue to do. Do they continue to fight for what they call electoral justice, or do they focus on 2022 politics? Do they stick together? Does ODM really want to divorce the other 3? And what lies ahead for them and for the other 3? It's interesting times ahead for the political happenings in this country. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll talk about the issue of Kenya's debt as a country. The International Monetary Fund coming out this past week telling Kenyan parliamentarians that they are worried about Kenya's debt and its excessive borrowing. Don't go too far.